Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Captain's Run Origin. It is here, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to wait any longer. Side selected this Sunday afternoon, Monday morning. They never really do nail a time. I always said every single year, let me know if I'm crazy. We should have a show that announces the teams on Sunday at a certain time. I know they've got the news and whatever. Do it on the internet. I don't know. There are ways where we could have an ex-legend like a Matty Johns or a Joey or a Freddie Fittler or a Darren Lockyer. What you name it. We have a big night, a song and dance where the teams get selected. We keep everything under wraps. We make sure that clubs don't continue to leak selections to journalists. We make they get fined if they do or something along those lines. And we have a huge show announcing the teams. Imagine the ratings. We could do things like, players have got cameras at their homes and their families are watching or something along those lines. All the players are invited there or something. Whatever it is, I reckon we need to have a big song and dance rather than just going, oh, here's a list being read out by, someone that got a list early. But anyway, Origin is here, guys. Give us a text, 0457 736 736. Now, we were going to talk about the Origin first hour, but we're going to wait till the great Justin Horo arrives to talk about it because I know how much you guys enjoy Horo on the show. So I said, you know what, let's not waste that. Let's get it when Horo comes in. We've got a huge show. With the last game of rounds before Origin sides are named for Game 1. Mal Meninga's name is thrown in the hat to become the first Perth Bears coach. What does it mean for the Kangaroos? Fears PNG's entry into the competition could be delayed beyond 2028. The NRL announces that the Dragons, Bulldogs, Cowboys, Knights will be the 4 teams headed to Vegas in 26. We preview round 11. As I said, Horo joins us in the last hour. It says 2 o'clock here, so, yep, okay, that is the last hour. Apologies. I'm terrible with maths. But I wanted to talk about, let me know, 0457 736 736. One of the biggest topics of the week has been the Broncos and Michael Maguire. So, essentially, the Broncos have not been performing as expected this year. They went on a cultural excursion. Jeez, that's a huge cultural excursion. Jesus. Bloody hell, mate. Take them down to a local pub. That's a bit of culture for you. That's the bloody culture. That's Australian culture, mate. Don't need to go in those fancy boats on that. No, all jokes aside. Look, I think that this is a massive beat up. It's because it's gone on a boat. That's honestly the only reason this is salacious is because it's on a boat. If they said, "Oh, we went to dinner on a cultural experience, or we walked there, or we all got a cab there," no one would say anything. So I think that's a bit. Anyway, so that happens. Then Buzz writes an article in the paper, and then in that article he says that Michael Maguire not in that article. Later on, he then says Michael Maguire gave him a call and said, "You don't understand." Anyway, so tensions are rising, and now all of a sudden, on top of all that, Buzz reveals that he believes that there are some players that think Madge is training them too hard. And so I would love your thoughts on this, guys. What is happening at the Broncos? Is Madge training them too hard? Is it a cultural issue? Is it a mentality issue? I don't think anyone thinks it's a roster issue. I mean, there might be a few small people out there that think it's a roster issue, which is fair enough. We don't. It's all opinion-based. Give us a text, 0457 736 736. What is wrong with the Broncos? I will say this. What frustrates me about this angle of Mike Maguire coaching too hard. Oh, before I get into it, the great Maestro, how you going, brother?
Very well, Kempy.
Apologies. Got caught up.
Well, no, you got that first-hand view on Friday night, so you're better placed than anyone. How was that first call?
Yeah, it was awesome. Absolutely loved it. Okay, so anyway, Michael Maguire, the angle is he's training too hard and some people are being put offside. And then there's the other angle of, is this playing group mentally tough enough yet? They've got all the talent in the world, but are they mentally tough? So there's two lines of thoughts. I think I'd say this, which I think, in regards to, is Michael Maguire training too hard? I think, unfortunately, whether he is or he isn't, it is irrelevant. And why do I say that? So first, they got this playing group, not all of them, some have been moved on, but this core, they got Seabold, who was super technical, super modern. Everything was measured. Everything was, it wasn't old school. And that didn't work out. It was too technical. There was too much going on. And they'd forgotten the old school stuff in rugby league. And so then the next coach comes in, Kevy Walters. Could not be a more player-first coach. Like, genuinely, if there is a knock on Kevy when he got moved on, it was He's too much player first. He protects the players too much. He lets them do whatever they want too much. They play how they want. They act how they want. And it's all free, willy-nilly and all that stuff. And so they have that. They have Kevy as a coach, and they get to a grand final. That is true. But out of that 4-year run, they make the finals once. The next year, under Kevy, yes, there were injuries, but you can't tell me that playing group, you can't tell me that's the only reason why they were finished where they are at. They still had a good enough roster to be fighting in around that 8 to 10 mark, in my opinion, or at the very least fighting for the 8. And so then in comes Michael Maguire, old school traditional coach. And so I ask, if Anthony Seibold is not the answer, if Kevy Walters is not the answer, now Michael Maguire is not the answer, then who's the answer? Like, at what point do you go, hang on a sec, maybe we've had all different styles. Like, I genuinely think that Seibold, Walters, and Maguire are all essentially the full spectrum of coaches you're going to get in the NRL. There's the Craig Bellamy type with Michael Maguire. There's a Anthony Seibold. He's probably more akin to, say, a Trent Robinson. I'm not saying he's good as a Trent Robinson. I'm just saying that kind of coach. Then you've got the Kevy Walters that is probably a bit more like Wayne Bennett. That's a bit more player first, free-flowing, let the boys do what they want, express themselves. And so I just think that, like, at what point do you go, bro, there's been 3 coaches through here now, and to suggest already that there's whispers that he trains them too hard, it's like, surely you just go, take a step back and go, just buy in. Just buy in. And that's where I go, I think that this idea already in round 10 of saying Madge trains them too hard, and I'm not saying that we know the players have said that. I think the idea that has been put forth by some analysts in the movie, of course, is fair and reasonable. They can have that opinion. I personally think it's an easy cop-out. It's an easy scapegoat to just go, Madge trains them too hard. Yep, Madge trains them too hard. Because the argument against that as well, guess which player is playing the best of his career? And you would argue that he's been their best player over the last 3 or 4 years. Or longer than that, 5 or 6 years. It's Payne Haas. So why the guy that already would train his backside off, already would be at the pinnacle of what he's doing, has gone to another level? I'd also argue, I think Paddy Carrigan, yes, okay, is he a 13 or front row? I'm not sure. But in regards to his performances, they have been phenomenal. And so why is it that Paddy and Payne are going to another level under this leadership from Michael Maguire, but apparently he's training them too hard? It just doesn't make sense. I think it's an easy cop-out. I think this idea that the problem is, even if it was true, it's like, okay, well, where do we end here? Let's go get another coach. Like, it can't be similar to Kevy because that didn't work. It can't be similar to Seibold. That didn't work. It can't be similar to Michael Maguire because that didn't work. I just think it's a really, really easy cop-out. Way too early to be suggesting that. And I also think it's way too early to be writing the Broncos off as well. I think that give it time for the right players to buy in, and give it time for the other players that if they don't enjoy being there, if they feel they would be better elsewhere, then they allow them to go elsewhere. There is nothing wrong with players suiting certain coaches. There's nothing wrong with that. There are certain players that may not have thrived under Craig Bellamy. Now, granted, nearly everyone does. But there's certain players that may not have thrived under Bellamy that would thrive under Wayne Bennett, and vice versa. There's certain players that probably need a harsher kind of leader than Wayne Bennett is, and they would thrive under Craig Bellamy. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think you've got to give them time for everything to settle, for all the dust to settle. What do you reckon, Maestro?
Well, I'm interested in... So if you are looking at that playing group, and this has been the other storyline around, is how many of them are off contract. And part of that would be by design, I'm assuming. You're looking at guys like Selwyn Cobbo and Katoni Staggs who are playing for a contract next season at this stage. You've got Payne Haas off contract at the end of 2026, Kempy. Yep. Along with that, you're looking at Jesse Arthurs, you're looking at Ben Hunt, older players just got injured, Jock Madden. They don't have a lot of guys locked in long term, and then Adam Reynolds is the key to all of that, I think, in terms of structuring your salary cap going forward. So where does is this down to individual players? Is there a head of this that needs to be cut off?
Cut off is very aggressive. Yeah. People can change, people can learn. I just think Michael Maguire needs time to instill what he wants. I think that Michael Maguire needs time to be able to go, this is the squad that reacts well to what I want. This is a squad that doesn't react well, because I just don't understand the idea. He trains us, it's too hard training when some of our best players have gone to another level. I got a text here, actually. There's no one more out of form than Carrigan. Slow play the ball and looks like a draft horse lumbering up to the D-line. I disagree, mate. I think Carrigan has been phenomenal. If he was lumbering and that slow to the D-line, why is his average meters like 180 to a 200 each game? I think Carrigan's been phenomenal. The only question I have is he playing? Is he better off playing 13 or is he better off playing front row? But I think he's been great. Got some more text here. Kempy, the problem with the Broncos is they think they're better than everyone else. It's their culture and it's rotten to the core. See, that's where I think you may be mixing the wrong things, because the funny thing is when Broncos were the best team in the competition, or at least the Glamour Club or whatever, they did think they were better than everyone else. But they backed it up. It's almost a bit like the Manchester United of like early 2000s. They did walk a bit, taller than everyone else. They did have that arrogant swagger that was like, we are the best. Like, for example, do you think Penrith, I know right now they're not a good example because they're not going as well, but you think Penrith didn't think they were better than everyone else last year and the year before? They do. But you're right in regards to you need to earn that. You need to earn that. And that's what the Penrith Panthers did. When they first came in and everyone was potting them going, arrogant young kids, think they're too big for their boots, they said, all right, keep saying that. We'll just prove that we're better than everyone else. And they did that. And then eventually, all of those negative comments, they started to die away because you stood back and you go, you know what? I might think that they've got too much, confidence or arrogance or whatever, but there's nothing I can say because they keep backing it up. Their actions back it up. They are better than everyone else. And so, yeah, that's where I think. I got another ticket. Kempy, your Broncos goggles are very foggy, brother. I feel like I was just talking quite critical of the Broncos, so I don't understand how that. I'm talking critically of the playing group, so I don't know how that is making any sense to me. Kempy, they also have been missing one of their best players in Reece Walsh for the past month. That's a huge loss. Yeah, but like you're replacing him with Sell and like that backline on paper is still outstanding. Wow, okay, I got a text here. I agree. I don't think Pat Carrigan's worth the money. You don't think Paddy Carrigan's worth $700K a year? Wowzers.
Watch him in Origin.
Mate, he's unbelievable, Paddy Carrigan. That's surprising to me. I think I genuinely used to think that it was a pretty common agreement that Paddy Carrigan was one of the best forwards in the competition. Here's some more text here. Hey, the Broncos. Sorry, there's just texts are just flying through. Here we go. Hey, Kempy, love the show. Broncos v Panthers. Broncos on top early. Last tackle, instead of putting the ball in the corners, Reynolds went for the big play and didn't come off then, and the Panthers are on top for the rest of the game. Clearly not doing the hard stuff to build the game. No, mate, I spoke about it in my podcast. I felt like Reno really did play poorly against the Panthers, and it wasn't just the kick out in the full. And that's where I feel like, I spoke about it on my podcast on Monday, I feel like from the top it needs to be brought in. So, like, you can talk all you want about being flat or tired, but when you actually watch them play, it's not them being flat or tired that's the issue. It's them trying to score on second tackle and getting dragged out or doing exactly what you just said. Instead of kicking into the corners, they go for a big play on the fifth play coming out of their own end, momentum shifts. And so even when you watch them play, I don't watch them in that first half and say they're flat. They were 14-0 up against the Rabbitohs. They were up against the Penrith Panthers as well. That suggests to me that they're buzzing. The problem is that it is that mentality we're talking about, that hard mentality of willing to get into the grind and not having to attack every second tackle. That's the biggest concern of the Broncos is they want to score every time they run the ball. Every single time they get in good ball, their only thought is we need to score. Instead of going, we need to build pressure. We need to build pressure.
Was it as simple as that on Friday night? Is that what changed?
Absolutely, mate. I think that on the weekend, you can hear in the commentary, when they score, I literally say, like, what do you know? They completed a set, built pressure, and they scored. That's the thing with the Broncos. Go back and watch the Roosters game. All they did was a really simple game plan, through the middle, only risk it when they get in good ball and they've built a bit of pressure. They blew the Roosters out in the back end of the game. The Bulldogs as well, it was a very simple game plan through the middle, wait until they get into good ball, then spin the ball. Like, so the idea of, they're training too hard and that, I don't think it, I just think from any angle you look at it, it doesn't add up. I just think it's an easy out against Michael Maguire because he has had a history of being an old school tough coach. When in reality, the game is not bearing that out. Like, they aren't losing because they're too tired when they start the game. They're losing because they're risking the ball. They're not willing to get in the grind. Like, for example, the tackle when Havili scored, like, you're telling me if that's a grand final, they're just going to let him score that. Or for example, even the last one, Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah.
Like, that's not fatigue. That's just switching off. That's just completely switching off. Okay, got one last test. Kempe, players these days, collectively, are more powerful than the coach in value. Hence, you see coaches taking the brunt of bad performances. Poor performance should result in a cut of match fees, etc., which would see players take more responsibility for the game day attitude. I'm with you halfway. I don't think cutting players' match fees on performance is a good idea, because sometimes you don't mean to have a bad performance. Sometimes things just don't go your way. I will say I agree with you, like, it is much easier to move a coach on. However, the unique thing in this situation is there's no way the Broncos are moving Madge on. Like, they're going to back him, because the last thing as a club the Broncos can do is move another coach on, because then it's just a rebuild all over again. I think they'll give Madge at least another 3 years, like at least 3 years to build what he needs to build. And so that's that. So I don't think, the match fees, if they're not playing well, I think that's a bit too harsh. Then you got another one. Was the game against the Roosters where we pumped the Broncos, Kempe? Was that the game against the Roosters where we pumped the Broncos, Kempe? I don't understand that. Didn't they beat the Broncos? Didn't they beat the Roosters at the start of the year? Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, here's another one. Hey, Kempe, they're happy to throw out these quotes that players are not happy with the training load. We never get a name, and as a result, the entire squad is tainted. The journalists can produce a byline, but never have to back it up with facts. Journalists should put up or shut up. Yeah, it's a really double-edged sword, isn't it? Because, one part of journalism is you can't give your sources up, because then obviously you lose the ability to actually get the truth behind the four walls. But you're right, when it does come out that a few players, and I have no doubt that there are a few players, I think anyone could predict that there would be a few players that just didn't gel well with Michael Maguire. That's why you always see a lot of people moving on when new club. Doesn't matter what coach it is. It could be a rookie coach. They get moved on. And so I don't think that's surprising, but you're right. It sucks now that entire playing group gets tarnished with that brush of like, oh, it's too hard at the moment. When I just don't think that's the case. I think however you look at it, they still look super fit. It's more just a style of play in their minds that they need to get right, which I believe they can. I really do. Once it clicks for them, they'll be unstoppable. They've just got to fully believe in the vision. Fully believe in the vision. I back the boys in to be able to turn it around. All right, we're going to head to a break. We've got thousands of texts to get to. It's been absolutely flying off the handle, guys, so make sure to stay tuned. Give us a text, 0457 736 736. We've got so much more to talk about. We got next year's Vegas round. We've got Mal Meninga, Perth. We've got fears about PNG's entry to the competition. Plus, Horo joins us later in the show. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. We've got some texts here. So many texts, but some good ones here. Madge has had 10 weeks in the job. Shouldn't we give him a season before we start to judge? Adam O'Brien's had 4 with the Knights and hasn't delivered as much in comparison. Let's give Madge more time. Mate, absolutely. Like, that's my whole point. Like, my argument before was more, doesn't matter how you look at it, this whole they're training too hard, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. So I agree with you, mate. Give him way more time. Also, another text here. Boys, wily old doggy, surely the criticism of the Broncos is that they are too expensive and shit the ball too early and take too many risks out wide. Surely the fall's on the head of the game managing halfback and also the coach. It's not the wingers or centers' fault. Surely to goodness. Well, absolutely, but do you really think Michael Maguire's coaching style is telling them to spread the ball as much as he is? I'd be very sure. Look, maybe he is, and then that's absolutely correct. I will say, yes, the halfback is definitely the number one person that you would critique if they are spreading the ball too much and too early. But wingers have choices. Like, wingers don't need, like, for example, there was one on the weekend where Dean Mariner went for the corner against Latrell Mitchell. Like, he had that choice to go, you know what, I'm going all in for the try. Now, granted, if he scores it, he's a hero. But, it's early in the tackle count, or at the very least, the third or fourth tackle, build pressure, just go inside, get tackled. I think there was another one earlier in the game where he, thought he could burn the winger. He got taken out. I think there was another one where Adam Reynolds essentially got caught on the fifth, but he decided to kind of like chip kick it. Then they wasted their challenge. And so little things like that, whether it's a center, a winger, or a halfback, like they're still true. Even if I'm a center and the ball comes to me and we've got very minimal room on the edge, and I still pass it to my winger, and he gets taken out immediately on impact, then that's the center's fault. Don't pass the ball. Hold it. Hold the ball. Take your medicine. Get down and go again. So we've got, 1,000 texts here, guys. Imagine Maguire at the Warriors with the work they put in now. They have some great players, but nowhere near the skill of Broncos. But the boys seem to be all heart. Imagine with Madge's training as well. I think the Broncos are mentally not very tough. It's why they will chase quick points and grind the option. I do think there are a lot of players in the Broncos squad that are mentally tough. The problem is you need to get everyone on board. You need to get everyone, and maybe mentally tough's the wrong word. More just buying into that style of rugby league, which is a very conservative, pressure-based style. You go back and watch New South Wales versus Queensland. They couldn't be more polar opposite. New South Wales under Michael Maguire were big bodies, camp him down their end, and then eventually they'll break. Whereas Billy Slater we'll attack from anywhere, and we're not as big, but we're faster. So Michael Maguire, he's known for that conservative style kind of football. Got another text here. Kempy, Smoothie got lock of the week in Q Cup. Ben Takura, prop of the week. Yet Ben can't get a gig in the reserves, let alone on the bench. We need a big body. Smoothering offering more at lock. Smoothie offering more at lock, being a hooker than Kobe is at first grade. Crazy these guys aren't the team. I will say, I do think it's time to make a decision on this 13 role. I think that, imagine the Broncos with a Connor Watson or a Kurt Mann or a smaller body through the ruck. And so I don't mind you shout if you're going to bring someone there. It's Smoothie, it's Billy Walters, it's Corey Pakes, because I don't know, unfortunately, the Kobe experiment hasn't really worked. And that's me. I've got to put my hand up. I thought it would work. I thought Kobe there would be great. But I think they probably missed Kobe's impact off the bench. On top of that, though, maybe you just move Paddy back to 13. They made a grand final with him at 13. You bring Willison in the starting side. You put Takora on the bench, and you got the big boppers that you need. As I said, to wrap it all up in a bow, I think they need to fully get on board Michael Maguire. It's only been 10 weeks. I think most of the players are getting on board, but it takes time to build good habits. It takes much longer than 10 weeks or even half a year to build the real habits that you see at the Melbourne Storm and all the good clubs. I back the boys in. I reckon they'll be able to turn around. I really do. I got faith in them. All right, we're going to head to a break. Plenty more to talk about after the break. The selection of the Vegas teams. We've also got the preview of round 11. Horo joins us. We've got fears for PNG's entry into the competition and so much more. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse half-price vitamin sales on sale now. And do not forget, bloke jerseys still available. There's about 15 to 20% left. Do not miss out. Once these designs are gone, they are gone. On top of all that, get your Grumpy Coffee today. It is the best coffee on all the land. Go to our website. Go to grumpycoffee.com.au. You can order it to your house. It'll arrive within 24 to 48 hours. Any dramas, you shoot us an email. We take care of it. You don't even need to think about it. Plus, we've also got a subscription model as well. If you want to subscribe so you never have to worry about your coffee arriving on time again, go to grumpycoffee.com.au. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? The big names being selected, or should I say team, being announced for Vegas. It is the Dragons, the Bulldogs, the Cowboys, the Knights. I have to say, I love these selections. I absolutely love. As long as it's the Dragons versus Bulldogs and Knights v Cowboys. So Knights v Cowboys, you've got the Kalen Ponga connection. They've always had these really good matchups recently. And the Dragons Bulldogs, do we forget last year's incredible match at Cogra, where I think it was a sellout and it was just it was almost like fever pitch, and it wasn't even a finals game. Like, that is a good game. I think, first of all, the Bulldogs fans, we know they'll travel. They will come out in force. They're one of the biggest clubs in the competition now, especially with the fact they're on top of the table. The Dragons, they're a sleeping giant. We know, yes, okay, has it been slim picking since 2010? Yes, it has been. But the Dragons are a sleeping giant of a club. They're one of the most history clubs in the competition. And then you go Cowboys, bit of that North Queensland flavour, baby. We know the Cowboys, when it comes to entertaining rugby league, the Cowboys deliver that in spades. You could argue they're one of the most entertaining rugby league sides in the NRL now. And then you go the Knights. You've got the Kalen Ponga factor. He's one of the game's biggest superstars. When he goes over there, and it does feel like a rock star environment, I promise you it does. When those guys get up on stage, it absolutely is a rock star environment, and you need a guy like Kalen Ponga there to drive it all home. Guys like Kalen Ponga, Critter, all those boys. I will say, can we this time, but when we send someone over early, can we make it like a big star? I think like the last couple of years, we've sent over some, like some battlers. And look, I was a battler, so I'm not saying I'm just saying let's send over bloody Kalen Ponga and Critter to promote the game. Got the looks, got the swagger, and got the runs on the board. I guess the big talking point out of it, the women's game is not being taken over there. I've got to say this. I don't mind the idea of it sucks that the women's game isn't over there, but it's a business. You've got to make it all feasible. I will say this though, bro, that was set up for failure last year, and I know the NRL didn't intentionally do that. And I know there's so many moving parts when it comes to networks paying for certain things and budgets and all that stuff. I get it, but mate, anyone that knew anything about rugby league knew the Kangaroos were going to go over there and absolutely belt England. And so I just think that, as I said, I've got no issue. Well, obviously I want the girls' game to be there. But when it comes down to a business, if it's going to be Super League and NRL, I'm okay with that. But I just hate the fact that we sent over such a... when I say it's a poor version of the women's games product, it's not even a version of it. It's literally some part-time, not even part-time, semi-professional, part-time, whatever you want to call it, English girls versus full-time, absolute... like Amazonian warriors. Have you seen the women's athletes at the moment? It is unbelievable when you see them in person. You see them next to the England side, they look like non-professional athletes. It would be like sending like a local league men's side against an NRL side. It would look crazy. And so that's where I feel like it just sucks that... Now, I've tossed up that we should have sent an Origin game over there. Some of the women have said that they wouldn't like that because it's a 3-game series. They need more time to prepare all that. But then, okay, send over Australia versus New Zealand. That's what I don't get. That's what I still don't understand. And so, like, because we sent such a poor showing through no fault of the girls' own, then all of a sudden the international viewership goes, oh, that must be the standard rugby league. It's like, no way. The standard rugby league's mate. I think it was record ratings the Game 1 Origin. I think it was the most watched game on 9 this year, the women's game. Mate, and I'm still, obviously you do what the girls in whole, what they want to vote for, but I'm still for a Queensland, like a one-off Queensland versus New South Wales. But at the very least, you go Australia versus New Zealand, surely.
We've done that as an exhibition in the men's game in the past, taken that overseas, separately to the US. So I don't know why they couldn't have put together a way to make that happen for the women's game. It's disappointing because the other thing is the length of the day over there, right? You're playing 4 games. That's a big ask for people to sit there for 8 hours in that stadium when you've got Las Vegas around it. Yeah.
Way too long.
Super League are back there, though, with Hull KR and the Leeds Rhinos as well, Kempy.
Yep.
And what do their fans bring?
Yeah, that's what I had to say. The reality that, sorry to interrupt you, mate, but the reality that when you're actually there on the ground, unfortunately, you need the English fans. Yeah. They offer so much, like they are so loud, so passionate that they change the environment.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And you put them next to the Dogs fans this year. My God. You're going to have drums. You're going to have all sorts of stuff going on over there. It's going to be a great spectacle. I think, it's building year on year, isn't it?
Yeah.
More charter flights being put on by the NRL as well this year. I think it's about $2,500 to get back returns. So that's...
No, just for the flights or accommodation?
Just for the flights.
I was going to say,
for the flight. Yeah, exactly. If they can strike that sort of deal, Peter Volandis, put him up amongst the immortals. But, that's... commercial reality. What a dirty word in sport.
Yep. So just got some text here. Sorry, Beak, 4 games in Vegas too much. Brother, that was my point. I swear some people they close their ears before they send their text. That's my point, mate. I got no issue with it being 3 games this year. I think it's the right call to be 3 games this year. My point was more I didn't feel like the girls got a fair shake last year playing against a non-professional English side. And I think that, like, if they had have got a fair shake, put it this way, if it had been Australia versus New Zealand, I think the decision between a Super League game and a women's game would have been a lot harder than it is now. Whereas now the decision it's easy because if people go, well, that's the game we take out because it was the least quality, blah, blah, blah. I'll say also, though, like, even the Super League game, that was a blowout. Like, I know they scored some points in the end. And so, mate, I'm absolutely... There should not be 4 games. It is way too long. 3 games is the perfect amount. Because you can even see on the screen when you're watching from Australia, mate, the peak of the crowd was in Warriors versus Raiders.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately it died out because the energy, when you see a game where tries are getting scored left, right and centre, people are just like, well, I'm going to go home, I'm going to chill in my bed. Whereas if you go Super League, NRL, NRL, I think you'll keep most fans in there. Or if you went Australia versus New Zealand, NRLW, NRL, NRL, that will also be an option. But I can understand the Super League fans, English fans, they did bring a unique vibe.
And this is part of the beauty of having a 5-year deal, right? Year 1, we're getting it up and running. Year 2, we've experimented. We've seen what's gone right, what's gone wrong. And hopefully this time we nail it. So we get 3 more years of great quality content over there to throw into America. And then potentially, who knows going forward, maybe we're headed elsewhere in the world as well.
Yeah, I reckon we should go to Hawaii.
I think that'd be great.
I reckon the next place after Vegas should be Hawaii. Just got another text here from Tim. Sorry, mate. Sent the message as you mentioned. No, it's all good, bro. I'm just pulling your leg. All righty, we're going to go to a break, but it is going to be sick. Dragons v Bulldogs. You're kidding. Over in Vegas. It will go off. I cannot wait. See Kalen Ponga returning the ball against a Scotty Drinkwater. Wow, let's go. See you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. We're at Chemist Warehouse. Head to chemistwarehouse.com.au. Also, grab your grumpy coffee from grumpycoffee.com.au. We got pods, we got whole beans, we got ground, we got it all. Here's some text. Hi, Kemby. Possible solution to Vegas. It must be 3 games. 1, a super competitive women's game. It can't be State of Origin. Find the next big thing, such as Australia versus New Zealand. I think it has to be 2 NRL games. I think the one you'd be playing with is the Super League game, whether it's a women's game or a Super League game. And I think right now, with where the game is at, I think you got to look at, okay, what's the best financial option at the moment? Now, once we get into a position, if we get into the position like the AFL is at the moment, where we have like $1 billion asset and a TV rights deal that gives us a few extra $100 million a year, then absolutely we can. I mean, look what the NRL did. AFL did. They actually went too hard too soon, and I think with the women's game, they had too many clubs, and it's taken them so long to try to bring the skill up. This is where the NRL has done a really good job in slowly bringing in the women's game so it has the right amount of numbers. And so I think in the future, for sure, we could look at that 3rd game, but I think 2 NRL games absolutely need to happen for sure. Got another really interesting one too. Forget about Kalen Ponga. It's going to be Dylan Brown heading to Vegas. What a way to showcase the game, one of the highest paid player at his new club. I will say, I know that was probably said a bit in jest, but it will be all eyes on Newcastle to see how Dylan Brown goes. And maybe even Tony thought that that's how he wanted to come across. It really will be all eyes on Newcastle to see how he goes. Okay, now, just a quick topic. Obviously, the Luai situation, they get beaten 64-0. And then, obviously, his dad, I don't know whether it was to his friends or whatever, but his dad posts his get-out clause activated. Listen, guys, if you ever wanted a really good example of how the media can whip something up and make you feel certain things about something very innocuous, I think here's a really good example. Like the thing with the media is like it's literally like any industry. You've got 90% of people they're just doing their job, normal people, whatever. I mean, I'm at the media right now. I'm at SEN, so it's it is what it is. This was just one of those situations where journalists went, okay, we've got Jerome Luai, one of the most polarizing people in the competition. We've got we know people are going to jump onto this, and so let's position it like it's something that should be taken seriously at all. When I think even the journalists reporting it would have known it's a joke. Even the journalists reporting it would have gone, look, I know this is a joke, but it gets people talking, it gets people wagging their tongues. Since then, his father has come out and said, I've been banned from Instagram by the wife, which is hilarious. Come on. What are we talking about? Maestro, speak to me. Maybe you've got a different opinion on this, mate, but what are we talking about?
I mean, it's not helpful, is it, Kevy? But I tend to agree. It's something you mentioned in passing. Hey, look what happened over there. But the story is a 64-0, right? So what's happened with the West Tigers?
He's done them a favour.
Yeah, exactly right. The attention is off them. The attention is off Benji Marshall. After, I don't know, Kevy, the last month after the Galvin stuff, everything had been trending in the right direction, and then they put in a stinker of a performance. I know the Storm were brilliant.
Do you reckon, though, if it wasn't like a person like Luai, do you reckon they would have grabbed that screenshot and pushed it as much?
Of course not.
And that's my point. Like, there is so much stuff that the media know, like they get sent that they don't run with. But this was a perfect example of the name's Luai. He's a polarizing people. The recent stuff that happened. Because it's a nothing story. It's an old man having a joke.
Yeah,
Seriously.
No disagreement from me on that point.
Now, just quickly, in regard to the whole, it's been kind of just confusing me how people are trying to conflate the fact that Luai has clauses in his contract for 2027, therefore he's not committed now. I don't understand that argument. I would love someone to try to explain to me how, because he has an option and he can speak to someone November 1 for 2027, therefore he's not committed. Therefore, the implication is he's not allowed to say team first, Jerome Luai. It's like, geez, we're drawing a strong bow there. We're drawing a long bow there of trying to connect not being committed with having options in your contract. There are there are a bunch of players right now. Like, for example, Mitchell Moses, he had options in his contract. Like, are you telling me he wasn't committed to the Eels over last year? There are so many big players with options in their contracts.
So why are they there, Kempy?
Well, because they're there because that's when you're signing with a club, you need to see how it's going to go first. You need to see what the environment is. So you're saying any player with an option in his contract, he can't say team first. He's not team first.
I think it's interesting when he seems to be the standard bearer, Reether Galvin stuff, and seems to be the leader of that. They're then having that clause in his contract that he does have the option to buy out.
So you're saying that because Luai has an option in his contract in 2027, he can't say team first in 2025.
I'm not saying that at all. I just think the argument can be made. There is a double standard there.
How to explain the double standard? I would love to, honestly, genuinely like to know.
Okay, so if you're that's like, I'll try and put it. I've got to be quick here because we've got to get to a break. But it'd be like you saying to me, "Oh, you're not committed to this show because potentially you're doing stuff elsewhere."
No,
because you're doing the podcast as well.
No, hang on a sec. What's the equivalent though? What did Luai do? Sorry, what would Galvin do? Because that's the relationship.
He asked away. I know he's asked away.
He said this club
isn't the best place for me to
my development.
Yeah.
So you reckon that's the equivalent of me already having a contract with options in 2 years' time? You think that's the same thing?
I don't think it's the longest bow to draw.
What? Okay, we'll go to a break. I want to hear more on this. I want to hear the explanation because I would love to know. Because clearly there are some people that feel that way, so I'd love to know their opinion on it. Give us a text 0457 736 736. Do you agree? Do you think that you shouldn't have options in your contract and then be able to say team first in the situation with Luai and Galvin? Welcome back to the Captain's Runs. Let's get straight into it. We said we were going to continue to talk about a difference in opinion on the Luai team first, the options. Okay, speak to me, Maestro. Give me your thoughts, mate.
I'm very interested to see what happens come November 1, Kepi. Okay. Because then if Jerome is still peddling the team first line, is he as bought in as he's presenting publicly? Now, you have a difference of opinion on that.
My opinion is it's not about Galvin wanting to leave. It's just about the comments and everything surrounding it. So, for example, when Luai left the Panthers, a lot of things happened there that he could have gone public with and bashed the club and blah, but didn't. He put everything first, the team first. They won a premiership, and he still moved on. Alrighty, we're going to head to a break. We'll see you on the other side. Alrighty. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Before we do, though, the Captain's Run, we're here for Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse, price, vitamin sales on now. Give us a text 0457 736 736. We're doing the preview this hour, and guess what? The big fella, Justin Horo, joins us for the third hour. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Knights v. the Eels. Fletcher Hunt will make his NRL debut in the centres with Marju ruled out by knee injury. Thompson, concussion, sees Frizzell shift to the front row. Adam Elliott moves into the starting side. At lock, Thomas Cant joining the bench. Eels team news. Zachy Lomax is named to return from a foot injury as he aims to retain his wing spot in the blue side. Bailey Simonson is out with a foot injury. Dury replaces Gaimi in the back row. Man, I mean, this is the all eyes on Lomax, all eyes on Mitchell Moses. I did my New South Wales pick yesterday on the selection table on Bloke YouTube, and we selected Tom Trbojevic. And then once we did it and I went home and I sat and I thought about it, all my other selections I'm relatively pretty happy to sit with. The only other one was maybe my Queensland bench where I was trying something a little bit different. But this one I was like, I don't know. Lomax, he's young. His body is in good nick. He's ready to go. I mean, obviously, granted, once he plays back this week, if he looks a bit underdone, then that's a little bit different. So it's the toughest one. Who do you select on that wing? We're going to talk more about it later with Horo, but it is really the Lomax and Moses show this week with the Eels. What do you reckon, Maestro?
This is a big game in terms of the season for the two teams as well, because I say if you lose here, if your hopes of making the top 8 weren't already gone, they're definitely gone after this game.
Yeah.
The Eels had such a big opportunity to take that game off the Dolphins on Thursday, didn't they? And didn't manage to grab that opportunity with both hands. Now they go up to McDonald Jones Stadium, a night side that has shown some signs of improvement, but still a fair way short. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, every time they take a step forward, they seem to take 2 back, don't they, Kempy?
Well, I guess the problem is that 2 weeks ago when they beat South, like, it looked good on paper, but it was against a South side missing, like, everyone.
It was more the fact they finally got some points on the board, wasn't it?
But again, it's against a side that, essentially a New South Wales Cup side. So it's like you should be putting points on the board. And then they get up against the Knights, the Titans. They get a massive head start and they let the Titans run them down. Honestly, just like I would have hated to be in those video sessions. Yeah. It would have been rough. Okay, so the Knights have played 9 games. They're on 8 points. The Eels have played 9 games. They are on 6 points. It's a tough game. I just think that with Lomax and Moses back in the side, though, I'm actually leaning more towards the Eels.
Yeah, I tend to agree just because of those ins. And I think Zach Lomax, he wouldn't be back this week if he wasn't 100% fit. You would like to think. And with that New South Wales spot on the line, I think for he and Moses, that's more than enough motivation, isn't it?
Yeah, I just wish that Bailey Simonson wasn't out because all of a sudden with him in the side, you've got if Bailey Simonson's in the side, that back line all of a sudden looks outstanding. You got Pensini, you got Fox, you got Simonson, you got Lomax. They'll do a job whoever replaces Bailey Simonson, which I'm assuming is Sean Russell. They'll do a job. But also really interestingly, Iongi is a Queenslander. So
there you go.
Yeah, so granted, KP, he'll get the fullback spot, but just watch this space. You never know. Someone gets injured. Like, who's the next up? Like, I know Hammer, is probably the next up at fullback. Brimo is, giving his allegiance to England. But Hammer, I think that we're so short on centres that you can't move him from centre. So if, like, KP goes down, Walshy, he's injured currently. There really isn't that many fullbacks ready to go. I know you got Selwyn currently, but he's not an out-and-out fullback at the moment. I don't think he's, I think he'd have to do a whole preseason at fullback to be there. So it's a little bit short on stock at the back there if KP goes down.
I'm sure you'll touch on this with Scope in the next hour, but what do you make of those comments from Ben Hunt that there's some whispers that Cam Munster might go to fullback? Mate,
I think they're playing silly buggers. What, you're going to
That doesn't sound like Queensland.
Oh,
they never do that.
Come on, mate. Come on.
Never do that.
There's no way they're keeping... Well, you're going to keep Kalen Ponga, even though his form hasn't been great, you're going to keep him out of the side to move Munster back? There's just no way.
No.
There's no way. Who knows? Maybe... You never know with Billy Slater. I'll say that. What I will say, he has got a reputation. He will make huge calls. But, this game, I'm going to go Eels. And I think Mitch Moses needs a really strong game.
I couldn't agree more. Eels for me.
Okay, got some text here. No size big with a bench of Dearden, Man, Horsburgh, Arrow. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to it in the Origin talk. But my thesis with that is that, okay, let's say your bench is Horsburgh, Arrow, and Nanai. Have they been in, on average, anywhere near the form that May, Spencer Lenu, and Young have been in? And also, when it comes to size and power, are they even close to those boys? The only one that comes close is Horsburgh, but he's kind of a different kind of forward. He's not he's not the Terrell May or Spencer Lenu or a Young. And so the question was, with the Queensland bench, why fight fire with fire? Maybe go a more mobile bench of a Man, Horsburgh, Nanai, and beat them with speed through the ruck. That was the unique bench I was kind of I was going for with Dearden, Man, Horsburgh, Arrow, or Nanai probably instead of Arrow, to try and beat them with a bit of speed. And it's more a discussion point. I don't know if I'd land on it, but that was more of a discussion point. Okay, next game, Bulldogs v the Roosters. Friday, 8 p.m, Accor Stadium. Oh, and don't forget, the Knights vs Eels is live on SEN. Bulldogs team news. Harry Hayes replaces Salmon in the only change to the side that beat the Raiders in Canberra. I will say, Kurt Mann, watch that with this space. I think he's playing for a spot at the moment. Luke Smith, he's set to make an NRL debut off the bench. Lindsay Collins returns from injury on the bench in the only change from last weekend's team. This is a weird one because, like, with the Roosters, you don't know what team's rocking up. Like, sometimes they put on performances and you're going, bloody, here's a perfect example. Broncos towel them up early in the year. They play each other again, and the Roosters put them to the sword. And so, like, that's a really good example of, like, you don't know what Roosters side's going to turn up. And so, like, on paper, this should be an absolute dub for the Bulldogs. However, you just don't know. Look, I'm going to give the Bulldogs the edge, but I just think it's a bit of a danger game. I really do. Huge win last week against the Raiders. All this adrenaline, they came back in that second half, led by Critter, all this good stuff. The Roosters, are they coming off a bye?
Yes, coming off the bye.
I'm feeling a bit nervous for the Doggies. What do you reckon?
I agree with you on that point, particularly because those outs, and I know they've got a couple back over the last couple of weeks, but they've still got some key players missing through the centre of the park. And I wonder, this Roosters team, fresh and having scored big points in their last couple of games, they've got that big win against the Dragons on the Anzac Day. They got the job done against the Dolphins, although they looked a little bit looser in that one at Magic Round. This is the sort of game I'm actually tipping the Roosters here, Kempy. I think it's finally going to catch up with the Bulldogs this week.
Yeah, tough one. Got some text here. G'day, Kempy. I can't see how Turbo could be picked. He's moving like a man twice his age at the moment. I'd have Lomax ahead of him for sure. That's from Rod from Padstow. Yeah, mate, you're right. We spoke about it yesterday, and I have Turbo in my side, but it's a very reasonable. Like, if you've got Lomax over over Turbo, like, it's a super reasonable opinion to have. And, part of me is maybe it's the right one. I'm not very confident in that selection with Turbo. But the problem is we know what Turbo can do. If he turns up like the Turbo that we know and he hits his straps, he wins Origin Series for you. On top of all that, we have to remember, I personally think he should have won the Golden Boot last year playing at centre for Queensland. He was the best player in the tournament, in my opinion, by a margin, playing centre for Australia at the end of the year. And he did it whilst he had a shoulder injury. But as I said, I know there's a lot of listeners right now that think Lomax should be in there, and I get it, man. A lot of these other selections I'm pretty strong on, where I'd be like, yeah, I'm pretty strong in that opinion. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm pretty strong on it. This one specifically, mate, if you got Lomax in there, I get it. Young, hungry, killed it last series. Was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
In that decider at Suncorp as well, Laurie Daly's spoken about that during the week, about how difficult it is for guys coming back or making their first start in State of Origin, how difficult it is to go up to Suncorp and perform when you haven't had that sort of initiation in Origin before, or you're below full fitness.
Yeah, so I think all eyes will be on Turbo and Lomax this week. If Turbo comes out looking a bit ginger, I think they'll probably go with Lomax. But it just depends how they go this way. I think they're really playing for a position. If Lomax looks a bit underdone, I think then you go Turbo. If Turbo looks a little bit underdone, then I think you go the other direction. In regards to Bulldogs v Roosters, look, I'm going to go Bulldogs, but I think it's a bit of a danger game. We're going to head to a break. Coming up, it's Saturday footy. Dolphins v the Wars, Cowboys v Manly. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, proudly brought to you by the Bloke Club. Head to www.bloke.club. Enter, and you automatically go in the draw to win a Mazda BT50. No strings attached. Takes you literally 2 seconds to join up, and you get a bunch of discounts, exclusive access to certain things, live shows, you name it. Plus, we've got a bunch of discounts with small businesses, and you go into the draw to win a Mazda BT50. Plus, as I said, every single month we give away prizes to the Bloke Club. We're building it out. We've got huge plans, and that's all thanks to Aspley Mazda and Luke Camilleri. Give him a follow, LDC_01. Mention Bloke at Aspley Mazda or to him, and he will give you a special discounted end of financial year price on a new car. New or used car, guys. And also, in the Bloke Club this month, we're giving $1,000 away to one lucky winner. They just have to be following Lukey Camilleri at LDC_01. Okay, Dolphins team news. This will be live on SEN. Dolphins v Warriors. Unchanged, the Dolphins. From the 17 that beat Para. Warriors team news. The Wars return. James Fisher-Harris returns from a pec injury at prop. Bunny Afoa dropping out of the squad. Jackson Ford drops out with concussion. Sam Healy joins the bench. Wateni Zalesniak was also brought in last week as well. Huge game. Listen, I'm just I'm such a fan of the Warriors. Yeah, I understand this is a lot of travelling. I get it. And they've been winning very, very tight matches, so maybe there's a bit of fatigue that might creep in. But I just think that the Warriors have been learning to win tough this whole season, and there's a reason why they're sitting in the top four. I don't even think they've gotten close to their potential. I think they've got so much more left in them, yet they continue to win games. I think the Warriors get the job done here.
I tend to agree, Kempy. And how about you open this show talking a lot about the Broncos, contrast their squad and their roster and the work rate with what the Warriors have been putting in to start this season. It's been quite remarkable the bounce back they've had since that opening game blowout over at Las Vegas. And this is a sneaky good game because the Dolphins have come into some form as well. Christian Wolf, after a slow start, has got them steering in the right direction, in the same direction. And suddenly they've got some players that are, sneaky shouts for Origin. They've got Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow bat fit and firing. This is a really sneaky good game for a Saturday Arvo 3 o'clock. Second week in a row we've had that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a belter of a game. And yeah, the Warriors, you watch them play, their first 20 minutes, they run hard, they tackle hard, they kick to corners, and they pressure teams. It's a very conservative game for them, where they're usually completing up around the 90% for that first 20 minutes. And, they hold on long enough to get the win. And so, yeah, that's at the moment, they're showing that incredible first half kind of footy, but they're also showing incredible grit to hang on to matches. You go back to the Cowboys game, they blew them off the blocks, held on to the end. You look at the game against the Dragons, they blew them out the blocks, held on to the end. And so if they can get their 80 minutes sorted, they're going to be a tough team. And you're right, when you compare it with the Broncos aren't willing to try to complete around the 95%. As I said, the only game where they really did that was against the Roosters at the start of the game. And also, I think the Bulldogs for a period there. And guess when they started to struggle against the Bulldogs is when they started making silly errors. So with the Warriors, it's all really simple for them. Run hard, tackle hard, kick to corners, and just defend your backside off. And then we trust our guns to get points for us. The Dolphins, it's becoming the Katoa show. It really is. First of all, I cannot believe for the life of me he only got 2 Dally M points last week. Sometimes I wonder what game I'm watching. When I see a guy like Katoa play like he did last week and then get 2 Dally M points. What? Anyway, this year he has just gone to another level. And I think Christian Wolf deserves a lot of credit. There's an argument made. Katoa has been playing better footy under Christian Wolf than Wayne Bennett. Now, granted, he is a year older and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, he is playing much better footy. He looks more confident. He's backing himself into the line. He's running the ball a lot. It is the Katoa show. I'm going to go the Warriors to just pip them.
Yeah, I've got the Dolphins. I'm going the other way, just on the back of their performances over the last couple of weeks, and I think that travel that the Wars have gone through over the last month is going to have to hurt them at some stage with the style of footy they're playing.
Yep. Okay, on to the next game. Cowboys v Manly. I tell you what, Manly, geez, they are in a bit of a strange position. They come out, they beat Penrith, and you're going, okay, they're all good, they're back. But then they come out the next week and look terrible against the Sharkies.
When they got that game back to 14-all, they had no right to be in it, and then you thought maybe they were the favourites going forward in that game. They started the second half actually playing quite well, and then Ruben Garrick makes the error of all errors, and the team just completely fall away off the back of that. Daly Cherry-Evans has been short of the mark. I think over the last month there's some talk about him maybe exiting early with all the movement that's happening at the Roosters. Brandon Smith's release confirmed today, and a photo of him signing with South Sydney, which happy news for Cheese fans.
If he moves early, geez, that shows you how far that relationship is deteriorating.
Yeah.
Like that, if he was to move Manly early, they're basically going, we are so over this relationship, both of us, that we're willing to sacrifice potential premiership run. I don't think they've got that at the moment, but that was the plan at the start of the year, to get rid of him early.
So the little bit of talking point that's not in the team news that I've put on the rundown here, Kempy, is that Joey Walsh has been called into the reserves for the first time. Not saying that's alluding to anything, but I think
you're not the only one. Matty Johns was talking about earlier this week.
Exactly right. I think Anthony Seibold he's got to start preparing for life without DCE, doesn't he? And with Jamal Fogarty coming across, that's great, but you're going to need someone there long term as well.
Yeah, I get that he's got to start preparing for life without DCE, but as I said, look, there's one thing. Look, maybe that is just purely what it is. It's purely Get him in early, prepare for next year. Fogarty's obviously arriving, but you want Joey Walsh to get some runs on the board. But as I said, there's no way you can slice it. If DCE leaves this year, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
For a club legend to be in such bad standing with the club in the last year, they can't just hold on and make it work. That would be, I can't express how much of a disaster that would be. So I hope it's not the case. DCE deserves his last year send-off at Manly. So do the boys. So does everyone. I hope it's not the case. So maybe it's just more a matter of Seabold going, okay, let's bring in some young fellas to give some, time around the boys, what it's like preparing for a game. Got some text here. Hi, Denon. I seem to remember Buzz reporting that there was grumbling within the Dogs that they were being trained too hard. Look where that led to. Regards, Lee.
Fair bit of roster turnover there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fair point. Look, this whole training too hard thing, it's just like, bro, you reckon the Panthers and the Storm aren't training like super hard? Like the Panthers, Bulldogs, and Storm, they are there doing video sessions. Like they're full time from 6, 7 in the morning. They don't go home until 4 or 5 at night. And on top of all that, you may go, well, that's a normal day's work. Yeah, it is a normal day's work. The only problem is then they go and travel the whole weekend and play. So they get on a plane, they're going up to Townsville or whatever. Their whole weekend is taken up. So it's basically, you're looking at like a 6-day-a-week job at high intensity. Whereas back in the day, like the early 2000s, you still trained just as hard. Something you could argue harder because you didn't have all the science and that. But it's all the extra video stuff that they never used to do. And Wayne Bennett, he's notorious. He's of the mind, well, at least to my understanding, I could be wrong, but he's of the mind that we do too much video these days and we overload a lot of these young guys. And I tend to agree. I do think some coaches overload young players with way too much information. But yeah, like these guys, their training days, it's not like the old school where they're in and out in a few hours. Like, they are there all day long, working on every part of their game, their mental side of things. So the idea of like training too hard, like especially with how much power the RLPA have these days. Yeah. I knew there was a problem when I started seeing reports that it was a concern there were vomit buckets at a training session in a preseason. What? Are you serious? Like, come on, bro.
How were your army camps back in the day?
Yeah, but
like Brisbane Broncos.
It's just like that's what, like, of course you don't want them going insane. Like you don't. You need to monitor them. You need to make sure. But like if someone's like people that are just training. So you could have a corporate job, and you could go to the gym on the weekend, and you could vomit there from training too hard. And you don't go like, oh, it's the end of the world. You just go, I trained so hard, I vomited. Like when I saw that, I was just like, geez, we have come a long, long way. And as I said, don't conflate that with me saying that we shouldn't be monitoring every player constantly when they're doing a heavy fitness session. We should have a monitor on all of them to make sure that they are within their realms of discomfort. There's a certain amount of discomfort that you should expect. But at the same time, like if they're like can't walk and you can see the heart rate is getting out of control and they're all that stuff, of course you pull them out. But yeah, a little bit of hard work. I don't think it. Yeah, I think we could. Got a text here. Tell them to concrete 12 hours a day, 6 days a week with 2 weeks off a year, mate. Absolutely right. I will say the only thing I will say is like this is the problem when a journalist comes out, and it's not all journalists at all. Just every now and then there'll be a certain story that comes out where it might be a bit painting everyone with the same brush. But this is a problem. So, and this is what the text alluded to earlier. So Buzz comes out with that story. Now every Broncos player is soft, when that's not the case. And the thing is like even Buzz is not saying that. He's just saying a few of these players don't like the hard training. But that's not how it's. The headline doesn't say that. All the other stuff. And so I just want to remind you, like, please don't suggest that all these Broncos players are soft because they're not. They are absolutely not. Matter of fact, all of them, every single NRL player is not soft. You cannot make the NRL if you're soft. But there are certain players that thrive under harder conditions than others. And I think that to suggest that, like, they're soft, it's just not true. Just not true. And it was a good text earlier about how these stories come out and then entire squads get painted with a brush when it's just not the case. But alrighty, we're going to head to a break. Okay, Cowboys, Manly, who you going?
I'm going Cowboys. I can't get around Manly.
Okay,
Even
okay.
as a supporter after what I've seen in the last couple of weeks.
All righty, I'm going Cowboys. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Got a bunch of texts here. Hey, Kempy, you know there are the 16 other teams, brother. Ha ha. Mate, I was answering a text, bro. So, if we get texts about it, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer just like I answer your text. Another text here. The Bly Part Bear. Hey, Kempy, what do you think of the Isaac and Mitch Moses controlling how Channel 9 run their show? Look, I'd have to know the details of it. You know, with these things, when you see stuff like this, there are so many different powers moving behind the scenes to push narratives that you need to just wait for more information, I think, to get the clear angle on what's going on there. What do you reckon, Maestro?
If it is true, what's been reported, I'd be very disappointed if I'm Michael Chamis in Channel 9 management. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not going to make comment because I don't know. I saw Chamis on the weekend actually.
Yep.
Went to Andrew Webster's birthday, his 50th, and the great Chamis was there. So next time I run into him, I'll ask him, and then I'll have an opinion. But things like that is just so much going on with that stuff that's all behind the scenes that it's hard to make a comment. Okay, hey guys, love the show. We used to get trained at high school until we vomited. This was late 90s. We were only in the second division school, and I was 16. I suppose that would be child abuse. Yeah, it's like anything, mate. It's child abuse nowadays. Is it also worth mentioning we went through and won a premiership? Kind regards, Stacko. It's like anything, though, I think, mate. Like, we always go too far with stuff. Like, of course we want training to be safer. Of course we want, science and everything to be measured and people to be more comfortable and everything. And then we've got the guys with good intention, guys and girls with good intentions, and then you've got people that abuse those intentions. They abuse good intentions and take it way too far. And it's like so many other areas of our lives where most people, they agree with the intent of a progressive way of doing things, but then people just abuse that. They just go way too, and you go, mate, we went from not wanting these players to train too hard to where it was hurting their bodies to now a player can just go, nah, I don't want to do it. Too hard. Whereas, like, where's the middle ground, bruh? Where is the middle ground of, like, mate, you still need to feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, like, we're just going to make sure that you're not going past the limit it's going to hurt you. Like, for example, here's a perfect example. The Broncos Army Camp. We did a 6-day Army Camp. I lost 10 kilos. Darius lost 10 kilos. It was insane. Personally, it's one of the most defining things I've ever done as a man because it taught me the lengths your human body can go, but it also taught me you would be so surprised at who is mentally tough and who is not. It doesn't matter what they look like or whatever, you'd be so surprised. But at the same time, as professional athletes, we shouldn't be doing 6-day Army camps because we're losing 10 kilos. That, like, we've just done a whole preseason, and when we put on all this weight, we just lost it all. So that's where you go, okay, to move that Army camp back to 3 days, that's not being soft, it's being smart. The problem is now there are some people that say, no Army camps, just get rid of them altogether because, you lose 2 or 3 kilos. But the problem is that, like, you might lose 2 or 3 kilos physically, but the mental toughness muscles you put on that you can't measure, that you can never measure, that's going to be worth more to you playing rugby league than maybe you being in peak physical condition. I mean, how many players or teams do we see that physically as athletes are substantially better than the opposition, but the team that is mentally tougher wins? And so, like, there are a lot of new age trainers. And I'm not a professional, guys. I got no degree in any of this stuff. So I'm going purely off vibe. Don't listen to what I'm about to say in any serious manner. But there are a lot of trainers that lean so heavily into this. Everything has to be perfect, and you actually don't have to train that hard because it's actually getting diminishing returns or whatever. But a lot of the extra crazy tough stuff that rugby league training does, it's not about the physical side. It's about the mental side. It's about how do you respond when you can barely breathe, your ass is hanging out, your legs are built up with lactic acid. Can you still think as clearly as when you were 100% and not struggling? And that's what the hard training is there for.
Last point on this, Campy, I'd say to build your culture as a squad and your togetherness as well, wouldn't it? Going through something like that as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing that will bring it. Like, you've got the old school way of, like, drinking beers together, and there is a certain. I'm still a big believer in having a couple of beers, and I think that really is a timeless way of putting down walls and getting blokes to know each other. But I tell you what, if you've been in an army camp with a group of men or women, whatever, I've never been with a group of women, but I've been with a group of men, there is a bond that is connected. And I definitely, I want to say this clearly, I don't know what it's like to be in the army or whatever, but I can only imagine that guys that have toured together and done all that stuff, that the bond that they create is so unique and timeless that very few people can understand what they mean when they say, I miss going, on tour with my mates. Even though my life was being risks and all this stuff, no one will ever understand it because they don't understand the bond that you create in such environments. It is a unique, crazy, crazy feeling. And not even I can understand because I haven't experienced it, but I just can imagine how intense it would be. Anyway, we're here to talk about rugby league, guys. I don't know. I'm answering all these texts and that, and I just got all sidetracked. Apologies, guys. After the break, we're going to get straight back into the previews, guys. See you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, and the great Sir Skipper Scopius has joined us. How you going, brother?
Mate, I'm so keen to get involved. I was supposed to be in the last hour, but when I roll in, I see you in here. I was just like, I just need to get an early touch.
I love that. That's what I love,
I want to come off the pine. I want to have an impact.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go, mate.
You don't look. No one likes the guy that rocks up to training, and it says to start at 2, even though they're there at 1:30, and they just sit there and wait until everyone's on the field. You're like, mate, that's not commitment. I need you out there straight away.
Here we go. I've got the number 6 card. I've given it to the interchange man. Get me on there. We got the second half. We've got to go on a run here. Get me on. I'm the impact player.
Off the back. Just who was that Warriors player? Oh, what was his I seen a clip of him recently. Haliasina, that was just head bobbing, just skitzing off the back fence.
He did the triple goosey before he even got to anyone. Headgear, he was frightening him. I remember I seen a highlight package of him recently as well.
Yeah.
And I said to Mace, I was like, what was it like? He goes, it was awful.
Yeah.
He goes, if he's seen and Mace has the ability to just line up wherever he wanted to, he'd just like push someone inside him or go to another side. He goes, I don't need that.
Mate, because when you're doing 3 triple OG goosey before you rock to the line, you know that the contact of death is coming with either his elbow, his shin, the front of his boots probably coming down the front of your leg. Like, it is just, he was a beast. He was an absolute beast. But let's get into it, shall we? Sharkies be the Storm, mate. You know what I'm going to find really interesting about this Storm performance? Sorry, this Sharkies performance.
Yep.
For the last few years, and I know they beat the Storm last year, but for the last few years when they do play the Storm, it's been like, oh man, they've got to beat a top-tier side. Otherwise, it's going to be another whole season where they haven't beat a top-tier side. This will be the first time that they're playing the Storm where they've gotten a few wins against top-tier sides, including finals wins. And I wonder if a more relaxed Sharky side, like this Sharky side is going to come into this contest far more confident than they've been in the past. And I just wonder, will that help them in this scenario? I'm still backing the Storm to win, but I just wonder will we see a more confident Sharkies.
Yeah, this is a really hard one to pick. You know how we've talked about in recent weeks about the benefit of Teddy being the chaser and not the position holder in the fullback position? Like Edwards did such a good job last year. It's like Teddy's playing with house money at the moment, and he's able to play a little bit more carefree and not stress too much about Origin. I reckon that's the same thing for Nico.
Yeah.
I reckon because of Nico's performances over the last couple of years, I said this at the start of the year, it didn't matter what he did. I don't think he was ever going to be in contention for Origin unless there was multiple injuries to Nathan, Mitch, Jerome, and then that would bring him back in. And I reckon it's really worked well for him.
Yeah.
He seems to just be so much more assured of himself at the moment. This Sharks team isn't going to be affected by Origin at all, really. So I think they've got an opportunity to really kick on, and it would give them even a better head start if they were able to do it against Melbourne just before the Origin period.
Oh, it'd be huge. It'd be a huge win. And I think, granted, have they, kicked on with the way that we thought they would this year? There's been a bit of up and down. But the last month of footy, I agree with you, mate. Like, Hines has played carefree. You can tell he's just going, you know what? I'm just going to play the way I feel like it. And I think that when he does struggle, it's him thinking about, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and I want to get selected for this, or I want to get selected for that, or I've got to be the man, I want a Dally M, so I need to have this or this. You know what I'm saying? The last month of footy, I'm with you, mate. I think that he looks like he's just gone, you know what? I'm just going to play the way I want to, and it's a few try assists have fallen his way, and that just keeps building your confidence. And then before you know it, you've played a month of footy, and that tentative confidence has turned into outright, full-on, no, I'm the man again. And I think that on the weekend against Manly, He tore them apart. Played flat foot footy. The one thing with Hines, and I think that it's a mixture of he can be guilty of it, but I think the Sharkies can definitely be guilty of it. Too structured, just out the back. And I think Hines plays his best footy when he sees a quick play the ball and just goes.
See, that's the change that I think that's happened.
Yeah.
So because he missed some time last year, Braden Trindle and Atkinson went really well filling in for him, to the point where I think Trindle went so well last year that maybe the Sharks and Nico had a concerted effort to get Trindle involved more.
Yep.
Now I think because they also lack a ball player through the middle, like an Isaiah Yeo, Victor Radley, Cam Murray type, he's getting more on ball, playing more a traditional 7 role.
Yep.
Doing, I would say, I haven't looked at the stats for this, but just the feel for it looks like a bit more of a 60-40 split.
Yeah.
Whereas Trindle is still the guy that they're going to require to come up with the last pass or get the 2-pass shift. Or come up with an X factor 40-20 or something of that nature.
Yep.
And Nico's playing more of a traditional 7 than I think he's played in the last 18 months, and I think it's suiting him really well. Go back to the Dally M year. Moylan was doing that for him.
Yeah.
Matty Moylan was he's playing in a way. He's playing the Matty Moylan role now.
Yep.
But because he's doing it so well and he's comfortable in that setting at the moment, he's also coming up with a couple of nice little try assists through the middle. Like the big boys just pushing through.
Mate.
I think he had Adden on the weekend.
Nikita.
The week before, Nikita, he had one with Nikita as well.
Yep.
And then he had some joy the weekend before as well in Madrick, but it's just escaping me who the players were. But he's in good nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, in regards to the Storm side, I mean, on the weekend, look, I know the Tigers didn't play well, but, mate, I reckon they're beaten nearly every side except for the Bulldogs by about 50 on the weekend. Mate, they come up against the Raiders. They let their own discipline get in their way, and I think Bellyache gave them a massive rocket. And I honestly, at home, on a fast track, I reckon the Storm last week were going to beat most teams by 50.
They were in a mood, weren't they?
Yeah.
Like you could see it was evident right from the start. And, even the Pappy try right at the start. 3 Tigers players within range. Pappy just wanted it more.
Yep.
He was desperate. And I guess the most pleasing part, and this is what they've talked about as well, is just defensively. The Tigers, they're a dangerous team if you let them get into the game. There was a couple opportunities where I was like, all right, then mate, shifted on the edges and created some space, and then they weren't able to ice it. From that point on, it's as clinical as I've seen Melbourne for a while. I actually tipped the Tigers going into the game, right?
I did just for a bit of because their value was so high. I was just like, what, stuff it.
100%. And I loved the start because I don't think the Melbourne Storm have been the Melbourne Storm of old. That was the Melbourne Storm of old.
Man.
Like even, you look at the games, the Raiders, the Dolphins game about 3 or 4 weeks ago, they just shown signs of just clocking off.
Yeah.
And Bellamy well and truly got that out of their game on the weekend. So, but I think this would be a doozy. I reckon I'm struggling to pick it. I'm going to go the Sharks because they're at home.
Yeah. Okay, next game, Broncos v Dragons. This will be live on SEN. Broncos, Ezra Manuel plays first game of the season, place of Ben Hunt, who suffered a hemi injury. That's the only change in their side, defeated by the Rabbitohs. Dragons team use DeBellin returns to the starting side in place of Toby Couchman, and Laurie joins the bench. How do you see this one, mate?
Yeah, just as hard to pick as well, this one, for different reasons, just because of the form so inconsistent the other way, right? Like, I know there was multiple comebacks over the weekend, but I just don't know how the Broncos let that one slip against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And it would have been frustrating for you being a Broncos great, Kempy, and watching that schmozzle on the weekend, mate. But equally for me as a neutral watching footy, I just look at that Broncos team going, there's too much talent on that team to be performing like the way they are. So they frustrate me.
Oh, mate. Can you imagine Michael Maguire? Because the thing that we know for sure, well, not for sure, but I think I know for sure, there's no way Madge is saying, hey, boys, attack on the second tackle, spin it, and get taken out. There's no way he's telling them to play like that. And any time they scored a try, it was all because they got to the end of their set. And so the game plan's there. It's just a mentality change. I understand under Kevy, for so many years they were told just attack from anywhere. And as fans, we sat back and we gave them all the praise in the world, and we're like, oh, the highlight reel team, and it's the best footy we've seen in a very long time. But you can't build. You can have one good year on it, and it can work.
Yep.
And it can just be this amazing. All the pieces fit together. But I don't think you can build long-term success on that style of rugby league. I mean, you can make the argument the reason why the Storm haven't. They obviously won in 2020 with Smithy, but they haven't been as consistent in making grand finals because they've been more of an attacking side than their conservative old school stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because their dominant period for that 20 years, they were known as the conservative side that would beat you 6-4 if they could. Whereas nowadays, they actually are known as an attacking side. And so with the Broncos, it's just like, if they could just play some conservative, boring footy, they'd beat both sides. Huge game for the Dragons, though. Desperate for a win. They've been so close so many times. I'm going to go the Broncos here, though.
Yeah, Broncos reluctly with not much faith, just because of sort of the Dragons have been as inconsistent, and I don't know, a few couple of things missing in the Dragons at the moment. I'd actually make the change from Little to Cook as well too, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to head to a break. After break, we've got plenty more to talk about. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, and we're about to get into it, guys. I told you it was going to happen. The great Scope has joined us, and we are about to go a deep dive, an absolute deep dive into Origin chat. We're going to name our sides, or at the very least get close to it. And just to wrap the second hour up with a nice positive text. Hi, Kempy. I think it's worth you receiving this text as a means of providing you with some balanced feedback. Enjoying your opinions and thoughts. Keep up the great work to promote rugby league, the greatest game of all. Cheers, Con. I appreciate it, mate. There you go. There's a nice way to end up the second hour. We've had a huge first hour. Guys, make sure to go back. We talked about the Broncos. We talked about Luai. Stay tuned for Origin Chat now. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, proudly brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. It is the best coffee in all the land. Head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Grab your Grumpy Coffee today. We got pods, we got whole bean, we've got ground. All you do is you go on the website, you order it to your house. It comes directly within 24 to 48 hours. Any problems, you shoot us customer service. We take care of it immediately. You will not be disappointed with our blends, guys. It's the best in all the land. Okay, let's get straight into it. Give us a text 0457 736 736. What are your Origin sides? Who's your biggest smoky? Who should be selected on the wing for New South Wales? Who should be the fullback? Who should be the halves? You name it. Give us a text 0457 736 736. Okay, here we got some audio from the great Laurie Daly on the battle for the fullback jersey.
Teddy played Origin 1 last year, and then Dylan obviously came in for game 2 and 3, and New South Wales won. So it was always going to be difficult to oust him back out once he played well in game 2. But no, Teddy's playing good football. It's a decision that we have been throwing around, but Dylan's done nothing wrong. And he is the incumbent, being a part of the last 4 grand final wins from Penrith. So he hasn't done anything wrong. But I think that it's a good position for us to be in if when we're sitting down at that selection table next week. So we just got to wait and see who's available, and then sort of start to pen the names in the book.
Alrighty, so I don't know. I just said a bunch of stuff that really didn't get any closer to the answer.
I was going to ask you a question. I've seen Laurie on content and actually done content with Laurie in the lead up. I love Laurie. He's like so good, like just the chat, and I've had a few chats to him away from the content. I have absolutely no idea where he's going. Do you? Have you got a feel
Mate,
or read?
That's my whole thing.
He's rapping everyone.
He said a bunch of stuff, but really not said that much. Like, Teddy come in and then Dylan Edwards came in. He played well, but it'd be hard to take Dylan Edwards out if he played well. But however, Teddy's been playing well, and it's just like, which is good. I think it's good. I think it's good that he's kept it all very vague. He's kept it because then when he does the announcement, it's going to be even more impactful. And also, it's not going to allow too many crazy headlines leading into pressure him into whatever.
Yep.
But that all aside, who's your fullback for the Blues game 1?
Yeah, I'm going with Dill. With Dill. Yeah, Dill's he's fit. He did.
Do you reckon he's 100% at the moment?
Probably not 100.
Yep.
He's still
fit enough.
In the 90 range and fit enough to be playing footy NRL week in week out at the moment. Post that groin injury in the Roosters game early on in the year. He's done everything in the last 5 or 6 years. It's his time.
Yep.
It wouldn't blow me away if Teddy ends up being the fullback. And I know Teddy will do a job because I've seen Teddy do it.
Yep.
But just right now, I think Edwards. What do you think? Do you think Edwards is going to get it?
So this is my concern. This is my concern with Teddy. I believe Teddy suits younger or less dominant spines where he is the main man. And why do I say that? Is because when he had his dominant period for the Blues, it was a young Cleary, And it was a Maloney that was very much a role player, very much like, I'm just here for the spiritual side of things and the mana and all that good stuff. And Teddy was the main man. Whenever he needed the ball, he got it. Whatever he said went. As soon as Cleary came of age really and became the big dog, I don't think they've gelled.
Panthers were winning the comp.
Yeah,
and they had a system.
Yep, they've got a system in place. And so when Teddy's demanding the ball here and whatever, Cleary's going, mate, that's not like. And I never feel like the Cleary-Teddy combo worked very well. So it has nothing to do with how good Cleary is or how good Teddy is. Sometimes combinations just don't work. And we're going to get a good indication of that. If they do go Moses Cleary or Moses Luai or Cleary Luai, we'll see what happens with that. And so that's why I'm going Dylan Edwards. Even with a Dylan Edwards at 90% or a 9 out of 10 fitness-wise, he will do exactly what Cleary wants, when he wants it, wherever he wants it. And also, we've seen Moses and him gel as well in Game 2 and 3 last year.
Yep.
And so that's why I go Edwards. I think the forgotten and unfairly forgotten man, though, is little Pappy. I think Pappenhausen, if you wanted to play put it this way, if Pappy was available for Queensland, I reckon get selected.
Over Kalen now?
I think so.
Yeah, that's probably that's probably a decent shout.
For two reasons. Because obviously KP is struggling a little bit with form, but also he suits Billy Siles' style of play, which is attack from anywhere, fast across the ground, just rapid fire ruck speed. I just think that at the moment he probably doesn't suit the forward setup and also the Cleary-Yo setup of the New South Wales side.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my thoughts.
That's an interesting on. Have we talked about the Ben Hunt comments yet?
We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. We'll save it. All right, save it because I think that's crucial for where
they're thinking.
It feels like it.
Yep.
We'll chat about that later on.
Okay, wingers. Now this one is hurting my head the most, mate. For me personally, To'o is locked in. You are picking him, mate. He could almost play no games. I'm picking him. That's how good he's been.
Agreed. Me, To'o's in, no matter what.
It's the other wing that has kept me up at night. So we did a preview show. Sorry, we did a selection show called The Selection Table yesterday. And
Love the kits too, by the way.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
You always go all out.
Oh, mate, you got to go all in, mate. You got to give the people what they want. Now, I went turbo because I just thought generational. Him, if he does hit his straps, he's the first picked out of anyone in that back line. Ever since I made that decision, I've gotten it's the one spot I'm not confident on, and I worry maybe I should have gone Zach Lomax. I'd love to hear your thoughts, mate.
Yeah, I'm Zach. I've been Zach for a while.
Okay.
I think the thing that's going to I could potentially get egg on my face is I think Turbo's going to be selected. And
he gets 3 tries.
And he'll kill it.
Yeah.
Because I was worried about him in the Australian Pacific Championships last year.
He was our best player.
Off the back of the injuries he had for Manly at the end of the year. And then you just surround him with elite players and he becomes the best player out of the elite players.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about. But I would select Zach and not worry about, even though he is 1 week removed from an injury, I worry more about that with Turbo than anyone else that's in contention for either team.
Yep. The worry I as well have with Turbo is the fact that he just hasn't. Well, I haven't seen him fully 80 minutes of full flight. Whereas in 2023, he did come back and we saw 80 minutes of like full flight footy, him going really well. And the problem though is like people go, okay, well, many kind of the 2021 series and the whatever that was like ages. That was ages ago.
Fletcher's trying to distract me in the background.
Playing cricket.
He's doing like some circle thing. He played golf today. I sent him out playing golf. Yeah.
And so
sorry, mate.
No, that's all right. But I think a lot of people forget that it isn't years and years ago where Tommy has looked injured, then gone into rep footy and killed it. It is literally just last year where he looked injured. He had a shoulder injury. Matter of fact, so much so people were surprised he made himself available. And I personally believe, I know Isaiah got the golden boot, but for me, Turbo was the best player easily in the Pacific Championship. So it's going to be interesting. Also, the Zach Lomax, he's young, he's fit, it's his time.
He was awesome, Kempy.
He was in top 3 players last year, I think.
I thought he was, and I would argue his best game was game 1 when they lost. When he just kept on turning up and rip it in.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Look, you can't go wrong either way.
Absolutely. Okay, now into the centres. I think you just lock in Trell and Critter. I don't even think it's a conversation.
Tick.
Not even a conversation. Like Braden at best, bloody good player. Sherry if there's injury, or Campbell Graham maybe if there's injury. Probably Sherry's probably next up, or Burton potentially. But I just think Mate, Latrell Mitchell in that centre jersey, he scares opposition.
Do you think Sherry and Burton over Bradman Best? Because I reckon the runs...
Sorry, apologies.
Because what Best has done in the last couple of years,
You're right.
I think he would be next up off the...
You are right. You're absolutely right. Yep, Bradman Best would be next up. And I like the physicality of Bradman Best as well. Okay, now in the halves, speak to me.
Mitch and Nathan, sticking with it.
Who's your 7? Who's your 6?
7 Nathan,
Yep.
6 Mitch.
So it's Cleary's team?
Cleary's team.
Now, why?
Because he's the best player in the world.
Okay.
Do you want me to get him more? Do you want me to go like I can keep it as simple as that?
Yep.
Or I can go the combination part.
Okay.
I'm picking Dylan Edwards. I'm picking Isaiah Yeo. There's a teaser.
Yep.
Like Yoey's going to be my lock.
Okay.
And my captain.
Okay.
And him and Nathan are going to be in sync. And Mitch, I think with his history of playing 6 to begin with in his career, and also, like I've said a number of times, I think he's a bit of a hybrid 7-6 anyway.
So quick.
So I think the maturity of Mitch is another big tick.
Yep.
He's 30 years old now, 31 years old. He's been around. He's been in different combinations. And I think he knows that his position in the team is the Robin for Nathan.
Okay.
And I think he would buy into that. And I think he would be on board.
Is there any concern that you're missing the Luai that, A, he's an out-and-out 6. So in the heat of the battle, he plays like a 6. Like in that split-second moment when you need to make that call to run or not run, he knows to make it. But also, he got in. I felt like he did get a little bit in DCE's head Game 3 last year.
100% he did.
He made the big play with that line break with Bradman Best that ended up scoring.
Yep.
Are you worried that you might miss that intangible spirit that he kind of brings to every team he's a part of?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. It's like it's the reason I sort of, you've gone back and forth. And it's a reason why with Mitch and Jerome performing so well on that level last year that people are even contemplating not putting the best player in the world in the team. Because everyone's like, Nath hasn't done it. He hasn't had his big moment at Origin. These two have done it. That's how well those two played last year.
Yeah.
That this is even a conversation. Because I reckon 2 years ago, it's not even like people aren't even bringing this up.
No.
It's Nathan a
It's
lock.
his jersey, yeah.
It's Nathan a lock, and then they figure out who's going to be 7 and 6.
Yep.
Now it's like, man, I've seen people go, I wouldn't even have Nathan.
Yeah,
I'd stick with
Luai.
Moses and Luai.
Yep.
So that's a credit to both of those two guys and how well they performed last year. And
Okay.
yeah, it is like when you don't select someone of Jerome's stature, then for sure you open yourself up to, as the coach, if you don't, for a really tricky selection come Origin 2.
Oh, man. Okay, let's go to the forwards. Starting front row, who is it?
Payne Haas, Terrell May.
Starting Terrell May.
Terrell May.
Okay,
Yep.
Barnett off the bench?
Barney off the bench.
Okay. Any thoughts of playing Isaiah Yeo on the front row at all?
No. Going to stick with Yoey at lock. I was watching Matty and Cooper talk on Monday about Jakey. Geez, they brought up some good points.
You know what? I'm going to sound like an idiot in disagreeing so strongly with them, Matty, in regards to Jake Trbojevic.
Yeah.
I just can't.
He wasn't in my team, but they were just because of the things they were talking about and how Queensland would never do that to someone like Jakey.
You reckon?
And how there have been occasions where they haven't picked Jakey and they've lost that steel and passion through the middle and they bring Jakey back and get a victory. It's like, that's right. That happens all the time.
But I think that happened when he was still playing a little bit better footy than what he's playing right now. Like, he played 75 minutes on the weekend. I think he made 35 tackles or whatever. We know he's good in defence, but it takes like 50 run meters or whatever. Last year, he got like 15 to 20 minutes on the field.
You know who he is, Kempy? He's the comp. The comp is Nate Miles from Queensland. Nate wasn't playing great footy at the back end for Gold Coast, and then I think he even might have played when he was at Manly, but you just knew he was going to do a job for Queensland. It didn't matter how... It didn't matter what his form was like at the Titans in those last couple of years. He always, I think he even won a Wally Lewis medal or something at the back end when, he's the sort of guy, like those are the sort of guys that you just know will do a job suit the arena.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just physically past him at the moment, Jake Trbojevic. I understand the spiritual nature of it, but you've got a core of players that have won 4 premierships. Like, you've got a core of blokes that they know how to win. They're passionate. They've been in huge games. What
do you reckon Laurie does? Do you reckon he picks him?
I don't think he does. I don't think he does. I think that I understand the argument. Like, there was that year where he wasn't in the side. You brought him in. He wins. He brings all the passion, all the spirit. He was their spiritual leader. Like last year, he was on the field for 20 minutes, didn't get back on, but he was there for like geeing the boys up and getting them around it. And I've even heard Cam Murray speak about him, how just like as soon as Jake talks, you just get around him. But I just think when you watch him play for Manly at the moment, the game is just a little bit too quick for him. It will be too quick for him in the Origin arena currently as it stands. Now, he could hit some red hot form. He's only 30. He's actually not that old, Jake Trbojevic. I think he's like 30 or whatever, 31. But I'd be going past him. You selected him?
No, and I struggled with it too.
Yeah.
Like him and Jerome for those reasons. Just the passion, the energy, the stuff that, like, stats-wise, they're not going to blow you away, but just the stuff that you... And I just remember playing with Jakey and even watching him over the years. Like, when you're around him, he's the sort of guy that just makes you smile, happy, keen, and you regain your love of rugby league around Jakey. Like, I'm not even joking. We went to a captain's... We went to a captain's run, old boys captain's run a couple of years ago. I remember just chatting to him for a bit. I was like, geez, I appreciate the game of rugby league more just being around Jakey and how much he still loves it and how good of a teammate he was. So that's where I was going with when I was watching Matty and Cooper talking about him on Monday night.
Now, Maestro, just before break, as a Manly fan, are you picking Jakey in your New South Wales side?
I can't have him in there. I would love to. I'd love to give you a different answer. I tend to agree with you, though, Denon. I don't think he's going to be up to the speed of the game. And I can't find someone to leave out on the bench for him to have a spot. That's my biggest issue.
And it's almost like if he's gonna be in the side, you have to start him.
Yeah.
Because bringing him on when the game is flowing and that, I think that you'd rather him get through the gritty defence for the first 10, 20 minutes.
Well,
100%.
the big one's Terrell May, right? I think he's the X factor that a lot of, like, for me, I've put him in, and I've seen people that have left him out because he's unproven at that arena, and it's a different type of player.
Yeah.
And whether the 75-minute player from the West Tigers lives up or plays to that level at Origin is a huge question mark.
Okay, all right. We're going to head to a break, but before we do, I'm going to let you know, I've got a sneaking suspicion there's going to be a big name left out. I wouldn't leave him out, but I'll let you know after the break. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. Head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Get your coffee today. Okay, here's the bombshell that I think may be happening. I think Terrell May be left out of the squad.
Ooh.
I don't agree with it. Let me be extremely clear. He has to be in the squad, in my opinion. I think it'd be insane not to have a guy like Terrell May in the squad with what he's done. And also, what he's proven at the Roosters he can do off the bench. That used to be his role at the Roosters.
Good point.
Off the bench, impact with offloads, all that stuff. And on top of that, how many head knocks do you see in Origin? He can play big minutes if he needs to.
Another good point.
But I got a feeling that may...
Terrell's part of my team.
Yep.
Do I think it's insane that he would, if he's not selected? No. That's where I disagree with you.
Okay, all right.
Just because of all the things that we've said, a couple of other players that have been there and done that. It's a winning team last year. You've got a player in waiting that's probably going to be a 4 to 5 year Origin player eventually. So if they do take their time, if they look at game one, if Laurie goes, look, I'm not going to do anything crazy like a Terrell May selection, with him in just ready to go if something was to go wrong with any of the other players, because I know that Payne can play 80 if required and anything crazy happens. Jakey will plug away for 60, even though he's only played limited minutes at Origin recently. And maybe he just goes, that formula worked last year. I think the team's even better this year with the return of Nathan.
Yep.
So
who do you put there then on the bench instead of him?
Well, I would start Jakey then.
Okay.
So the bench doesn't change for me. It's either Terrell May, but Terrell. Let me make this 100% clear.
Yep.
I would pick Terrell May.
Okay. Yep.
But I just don't think it's insane if they do not pick him.
Okay, that's fair enough.
That's where we.
Yeah. See, I think it is. I think that he's at the perfect stage of his career to come on and play 20 of the best minutes you've ever seen, and even if he doesn't, like, you've got so many other gun players that. I just think it's a perfect opportunity to blood someone new because you got the confidence. You come off a series win last year. Payne Haas that was his best series last year. You got Isaiah Yeo who can move into the front row if he needs to. You got Connor Watson. It's his second series. Like, I think that really, how many debutants are there going to be for the Blues?
He would be the only one, right?
That's what I mean. So it's like if there is a chance to go, okay, let's go a bit of a risk on this bloke.
Yeah.
Because like right now, what other front rower has taken their opportunity other than Barnett and Haas in the last few years?
As in, like Spencer Leniu.
Spencer would be. Yeah, Spencer would be on my bench.
Spencer's the guy who has, always did a great job last year. His form hasn't dipped. Not like it's been great, but it just hasn't dipped.
Spencer would be on my bench. So
he's my guy because he's my X factor coming off the
absolutely.
bench. And I think, and just to Terrell, what's in favour for Terrell too? I think his style would match really nicely with Payne.
Mate, absolutely.
Because Payne's your X factor, your big body. He's more speed and power, even though he's got big minutes. And then you just got Terrell churning away next to him, doing the ugly little carry, taking the tough carry. Really good tackle efficiency, good defender. So
imagine Connor Watson just hanging off that offload. He's got 33 offloads so far this year, Terrell May. Like you got Reece Robson, Connor Watson, Mitchell Moses, Dylan Edwards just hanging around that offload around the 20 or 30, around the 30-minute mark.
Yep.
Oh, mate, I think you've got to have him in there. If there was ever an opportunity to blood a youngish fella off the bench, I think it's this year. I really do. And also, there's no other front rower similar to him right now that has gone into Origin and just killed it each time they've played. So that's why I'd be going Terrell May. But let us know, guys, who would be your bench. We're going to head to a break. Oh, no, actually, you know what? We'll get our last two positions out. Then we'll get to Queensland. I think Spencer Leniu, get him in there. Now, could you make the argument you could ask Hudson Young to do a Spencer Leniu-esque type style of play of just like knock the door down? Maybe. But I'm going Spencer Leniu and Hudson Young in the last two spots in the bench.
I'm going Spencer Leniu and Hamoli Olakau'atu. Still.
Even after a bit of a dip?
He's barely hanging on, Hamoli.
Mate, Hudson Young is one of the best players in the comp right now.
I think if I've got Hudson Young in my team, I want him starting left edge. I don't know. I don't think he's a bench player. What do you reckon Olakau'atu can be a bench player? Because he's a bigger body, and I think even though they didn't use it effectively last year, because you got to think about the time he played middle was when they had 12 people on the field.
Yep.
That's not when you put Hamole into the middle.
Yeah, for sure.
They played that wrong. That you put him on the edge, leave him on the edge, move Liam Martin to the middle when you've only got 12 players on the field. I reckon this year play him back row and then get a stint out of him for 5 or 10 minutes in the middle. Okay. And I'd have that over. That's what gets him the tick over Hudson Young for me.
Oh, okay. So I'm going Hudson Young. I just think form-wise, I think they're both relatively even in like what they can offer when they hit their straps. But, mate, Hudson Young's form this year has just been good. Undeniable for me. He's getting my bench spot. But, look, can I see Olakau'atu in a Blues jumper just terrorising us? Yes, I absolutely can. We're going to head to a break. After break, we've got Queensland team to select. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Get into Chemist Warehouse today. Chemist Warehouse, half-price vitamin sale on now. Got plenty of texts here. Please, Queensland, pick Lindsay Collins so we can fold someone off the kickoff. I mean, you make jokes about Lindsay Collins, but, mate, he actually towed us up in 2020 when we won the unwinnable series. So I wouldn't be too funny about the great man Lindsay Collins. He might be a little bit out of form.
What was the series where he jumped over Teddy too? He was awesome in that series. 23.
So you make all your jokes, mate. You made all your jokes. He's got the last laugh from the last times in Origin. Got some more text here. Hey, boys. It says, history has shown time and time again that guys that might be able to form a club level step up and play for their state. I mean, the only argument I'd have against that is we only ever remember the guys that do. We never remember the guys that are playing bad at clubland and then play bad at New South Wales in Origin. You know what I mean? Like, it's a much more memorable thing when a guy is not playing well in Origin in clubland, gets selected out of nowhere, and then you go, whoa, you remember it more clearly rather than all the guys.
It's fair. You'd have to deep delve and look at some of the guys that I guess were questioned during those periods. Yep. And stuff. Mate, I'm telling you, like, people have questioned Chez's selection and tossed up whether it did and could beat him.
Yep.
Like, if you think about Manly haven't necessarily been world beaters during the period that Chez has gone on and played really well for Queensland during that period. Yeah, not to say that Chez's form wasn't good in 21, 22, 23, but the team wasn't going well. He wasn't necessarily known as the best half in the game at the time. But then Origin would come around. He'd have a really good Origin performance.
Origin's changed his whole career, in my
100%,
opinion.
the back end.
Like, without Origin, I think would have been a lot of pressure in the back end at Manly going, okay, is this the right direction to head with DCE at the helm? Now, granted, he's played so good individually at Manly, it's hard to say it isn't. But I think it reconfirmed to people, oh, he's not just a good club player. Like, this guy is another level. I genuinely believe he has his own Origin legacy too. I think that for a few years at the start, DCE he had the shadow of the 8 in a row over him, and he was always going to struggle to get past that. But then you look at his own little 5-6 year stint, especially with the 2020 series. Like, I know that was Munster doing his magic, but DCE laid the platform for him there.
Yeah, Munster. In terms of levels of importance for that series, Munster was unbelievable. Wayne's number 2 probably, and then you give a point to Ches for what he did as skipper.
Yeah, and his kicking game was just unbelievable. I got some more texts here. The worst thing New South Wales could do is select a player and not play them in the game. Jamie Burr, Tim Manor, and many other New South Wales sides. Boys, for the Blues, the choice is simple. Select as many players from the Panthers 2023 Grand Final as you legally can, plus May, who is a Panther junior anyway. Sounds like a Panthers fan. Okay, Scope. The West Tigers had more chance of a winning win last week than Munster playing fullback for Queensland. Okay. Scope, are you keen on the West Tigers this week?
Who are the Tigers playing?
They are. Actually, I am keen. They're playing the Rabbitohs. That's funny. Boys, like Matty John said, Team May, 18th man as first game at Suncorp, but love what he'll bring. Go the Blues. I think when you're going into a game and you've only got to debut one guy, you can afford to debut one guy. I think that's... Anyway, we'll see, though. We will see. What do I know? It's bloody Matty John saying it. He knows much more about rugby league than I do. Okay, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to wrap the show up. Oh, welcome back to the Captain's Run. And Sir Skipper Scope, speak to me, mate. You got something going on at the end of this year.
Yeah, end of the year, something big coming up. AshesRL.com.au. You would have heard it all over the SEN airwaves. Me and Big Mace are going to part of the Ashes tour at the end of the year, Fletchy. But Fletchy, I've called you in for something else. Your co-host from the run home just walked past me in the corridors, challenged me to a 10K run. Sutherland Shire run, 10K.
I'm on you. I am on you all day.
What? You're throwing under the bus already.
Look, we can see he's struggling now.
Yeah,
he better start running now.
He likes his running, but I see my man running around the eastern suburbs.
But he's got that dog in him, Sugar reckons. Yeah. No dog?
No dog.
Little cat.
I wouldn't say cat. I mean, you're right. He's a winger. Oh, so are you. That's right.
I debuted at fullback.
I'm going for my man.
There you go. The run home coming up after us. No loyalty. There's a bit of drama going on between the boys. Stay tuned.